Level 1. The Flipper. You're 22 years old. You've been collecting guns since you were a kid, not real ones, not yet. Airsoft, paintball, surplus parts from military supply stores. You know the difference between a Picatinny rail and a Weaver mount. You know the serial number patterns on Glock frames. You know enough to be dangerous, but you don't think of yourself as dangerous. You start small. A forum for gun enthusiasts. Someone posts, looking for a complete upper receiver for an AR-15. We'll pay cash. You have one sitting in your closet. You message him. He sends $400 via PayPal. You ship it. No serial number, no paperwork. It's just parts, you tell yourself. Not a firearm. Completely legal. Except it isn't. The upper receiver is the serialized part on an AR. By shipping it across state lines without an FFL, you've just committed a federal felony. You don't know that. You think you're just flipping parts like sneakers. You do it again. Then again. You move to other forums, places with names like Arms List and Gunbroker, but the private, off-the-book sections. You start selling complete parts kit. 80% lowers. Ghost gun components. You take Bitcoin now. You set up a wallet. You think you're being smart. The ATF isn't watching you. Not yet. But your name appears on a shipping label. That label is in their database. You're one of thousands. But every transaction gets you closer to their radar. Level 2. The gray market. You're 25. You've graduated from parts to whole firearms. You buy stolen guns from a guy you met at a gun show, $300 for a Glock 19 that fell off a truck. You list it on a private forum. A buyer in Chicago sends you $800 in Bitcoin. You wrap the gun in a towel, put it in a USPS flat rate box, and ship it. You use a fake return address. You think that makes it untraceable. It doesn't. The Postal Service scans every package. Their X-ray machines see the outline of a handgun. They flag it. An inspector pulls the package, opens it, finds the Glock. They record the tracking number. They don't arrest you immediately. They wait. They want to see who else you're shipping to. You ship 7 more guns over the next 4 months. Each one gets flagged. Each one adds to the file. You don't know any of this is happening. You also start using encrypted messaging app. Signal, Wicker. You connect with people who buy in bulk. A guy in Detroit who wants 10 Glocks, a woman in Miami who needs product for the islands. You're not asking what they're doing with them. You tell yourself it's not your responsibility. You're just a middleman. Level 3. The darknet vendor. You're 27. You've saved $50,000. You decide to go where the serious buyers are, the dark web. You learn how to use Tor. You read guides on Dread, the darknet forum. You set up a vendor account on a market. First Alfabri, then after it falls, you migrate to another. You choose a name, Steelpath. You write a PGP key. You create a product list. Glocks, ARs, suppressors, armor plates. You take only Monero now. Bitcoin is too traceable. You use a tumbler that splits your coins into hundreds of tiny transactions. You ship from drop points, vacant houses, abandoned mailboxes, dead drops in state parks. You never touch the packages. You pay homeless people $50 to drop them in blue collection boxes. Your reviews are perfect. Fast shipping, discreet packaging, product exactly as described. You're moving $20,000 worth of firearms a month. Your profit is $12,000. You're making more than you ever thought possible. But the darknet market is run by a team in a country you've never heard of. They keep server logs. They don't tell you that. One day the market goes offline. Exit scam, or the admins steal everyone's escrow. You lose $15,000 in pending sales. You also lose your reputation. You have to start over. What you don't know is that the FBI seized the market's servers in a coordinated international operation. They have your vendor profile, your PGP keys, your encrypted messages. They have a list of every buyer you ever sold to. You're one of 200 vendors they're tracking. Your username is in a spreadsheet. They're building a case. Level 4. The importer. You're 30. You've rebuilt. You now work with a supplier in Eastern Europe. Real military surplus, not stolen street guns. Czech pistols, Romanian AKs, Russian optic. He ships them in shipping containers labeled agricultural machinery. You pay him in Monero. He sends them to a port in Mexico. You pay a customs officer $10,000 to look the other way. The container clears. You drive it across the border in a rented box truck. You now have inventory. Not 10 guns. 50. 100. You warehouse them in a storage unit outside Phoenix. You hire a teenager to list them on the darknet for you. You pay him $500 a week. He doesn't know what he's listing. He just copies your text. You're moving $100,000 a month. You buy a house in cash. You buy a used Ford F-150. You tell your family you run a logistics company. Your mother is proud of you. But the customs officer you paid? He got greedy. He tried to shake down a different importer, someone who turned out to be a DEA informant. The officer is arrested. In his notebook, your name appears next to a dollar amount. The DEA passes your file to the ATF. The ATF compares it to the darknet market data they already have. The pieces start to connect. You don't know any of this. You're planning your biggest shipment yet. Level 5. The International. You're 32. You're no longer selling to street dealers. You're selling to people who email you from Proton Mail addresses with names like Libya Buyer 77 and South American Client. They ask for things you've never even heard of: Stinger missiles, night vision goggles with Gen 3 tubes, armored vehicle parts. You tell them you don't have that, but you know someone who might. You become a broker. You connect buyers to suppliers in Ukraine, Turkey, Pakistan. You take a 20% cut. A single deal might be $500,000. Your cut is $100,000. You do 2 of those a year. You're a millionaire. You buy a condo in a country without extradition, Montenegro, maybe, or the UAE. You keep a low profile. You never flash money. You never travel to the US. You communicate exclusively through encrypted apps that wipe messages after reading. But one of your buyers is not a buyer. He's an undercover agent from Interpol. He's been working you for 18 months. He's bought 3 shipments from you, small ones, nothing major. But each shipment was tracked. Each payment was logged. And when you finally offered to broker the big deal, surface-to-air missiles for a group in Syria, he took the bait. You agree to meet in Istanbul. You fly there with a fake passport. You're confident. You've done this before. Level 6, the Sting. You arrive at the cafe in Istanbul. Your contact is already there, drinking tea. You sit down. He shows you a briefcase with $200,000 in cash, the down payment. You tell him the missiles will arrive in 6 weeks. He nods. Then he says something you don't expect. I'm sorry. You don't have time to react. 4 men in dark suits appear from behind you. Turkish special forces. You're on the ground, face against the cobblestones, hands cuffed. Your contact stands up, pulls out a badge. Interpol. He's been wearing a wire for the entire conversation. They extradite you to the United States within 3 weeks. You sit in a federal courthouse in Alexandria, Virginia. The indictment is 40 pages. Conspiracy to traffic firearms, conspiracy to transfer weapons to a foreign terrorist organization, money laundering, violation of the Arms Export Control Act. The prosecutor says you're facing life. Your lawyer, a high-priced defense attorney you can now afford, tells you the evidence is insurmountable. The recordings, the darknet logs, the customs officer's testimony, the undercover operation. He says take the deal. Plead guilty to 3 counts, accept 25 years. You take it. The judge sentences you to 25 years in federal prison. No parole. You're 33. You'll be 58 when you get out.